At a casual gathering with friends, my husband Ji Yuzicheng's friend asked him in French, "Your mistress on the side is 2 months pregnant. What do you plan to do about it?" Ji Yuzicheng's lips curved into a slight smile as he thoughtfully peeled shrimp and placed food in my bowl. Only then did he reply in French, "E doesn't like children, so I'll have Jongkasin give birth to the baby. I'll take it abroad to raise it myself. Consider it a way to continue the family line." I was eating the shrimp, but tears began to stream down my cheeks. Ji Yuzicheng asked anxiously, "What's wrong?" I wiped my tears away and answered with a smile, "The dipping sauce for the shrimp is just too spicy." The dipping sauce was just soy sauce. But my tears fell because I understood the French. 1. Perhaps Ji Yuzicheng had forgotten that I was once a top student majoring in French, and he only learned French in the first place to make it easier to pursue me. My thoughts returned to the present. I noticed Ji Yuzicheng leaning against the table, looking at me. "Darling, what's on your mind?" I turned my gaze back without a word, intending to pick up the pitcher of iced tea on the table to pour myself a glass, but just as my hand touched the handle, Ji Yuzicheng took it from me. "Sweetheart, you don't need to trouble yourself with such a small thing." Ji Yuzicheng poured me a cup of tea. His friend Sun Aaron sat opposite, clutching his jaw and quipping, "Can't you two lovebirds keep the PDA to yourselves? You're going to make a single guy like me die of envy." Ji Yuzicheng glanced at him, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I'm a henpecked husband, in case you didn't know. If you can't stand it, tough luck." Alright, I'll just eat then," Sun Aaron said, putting on a submissive act. Though his eyes were clearly sparkling with anticipation for more drama, I tilted my head back slightly to look at him. The warmth that once filled my eyes now gone. Ji Yuzicheng, however, didn't notice. He leaned in and planted a kiss on my lips, asking gently, "What's wrong, sweetheart? Stunned by your husband?" "Yes, I wanted to get a good look at the man who claims to love me so much, to see if his heart truly belongs to me alone." Ji Yuzicheng froze, a flicker of panic flashing in his eyes, but he quickly composed himself. When he looked at me again, his gaze was so intense it felt like he wanted to drown me in it. "Darling, don't joke like that. I couldn't bear the thought of you leaving me." I lowered my gaze with a soft laugh and withdrew my hand from where he had pressed it against his heart, so he still remembered what I had once said to him. When I agreed to be with him, the one and only thing I asked of him was loyalty. I had told him, "If I ever discover you've been unfaithful, I will never forgive you." Back then, Ji Yuzicheng only had eyes for me. When I said that, he immediately grabbed my hand and promised, "You're the treasure I spent a whole year chasing. I would never do anything to hurt you. If I ever dared, may I die alone." It's true, because of my looks, I've never been short of suitors. From the very first moment Ji Yuzicheng saw me, he was determined to win me over. My first love left me heartbroken, so I had always been resistant to romance, but in the end, Ji Yuzicheng's sincerity won me over, and I gave him a chance. Yet 4 months ago, I discovered he was keeping a young mistress on the side. The belief that made me think true love really exists crumbled in an instant. I thought I would confront him in a huge fight, but I was strangely calm. I calmly stayed by his side, calmly went through the withdrawal, and calmly planned out the rest of my life. Finally, in just 1 more week, my visa will be approved, then I can leave Ji Yuzicheng behind and start my new life. 2. After dinner, a drunken Ji Yuzicheng slumped against my shoulder. "Honey, let's go home," Sun Aaron called out from behind us. "Zicheng, aren't you coming to the next spot with me? Everyone's already there, just waiting for us." Ji Yuzicheng didn't even turn his head, still leaning against me. He refused outright. "I can't. My wife needs to take her medicine. I have to take her home." Sun Aaron clicked his tongue in disapproval but didn't press the matter. Just then, I received a text message. "Liang Luori. Guess who Ji Yuzicheng will choose tonight, to go home with you and take your medicine, or to come out and party with me?" My eyes were glued to the phone screen. Seeing me stop in my tracks, Ji Yuzicheng turned to look at me. "What's wrong, honey?" I quickly turned off the screen and said nonchalantly, "It's nothing. Just the other woman trying to provoke me." Ji Yuzicheng's brow furrowed slightly as he reached for the phone in my hand. Just then, his phone began to ring. It was Jongkasin's special ringtone. I held my phone out to him. "Still want to look?" Ji Yuzicheng stared at me, his gaze flickering. "Darling, I'm drunk. Don't tease me like this." He nuzzled against my neck, almost like he was being coy. I pushed his head away and said calmly, "You should get that. It's been ringing for a while." Only then did Ji Yuzicheng straighten up, about to tell me he was going to take the call elsewhere, but before he could say a word, I tactfully made my way toward the driver waiting at the main gate. A flicker of surprise crossed Ji Yuzicheng's eyes, but it vanished the moment he heard the sweet voice on the other end of the line. Through the car window, I could clearly see Ji Yuzicheng's eyes light up with joy as he answered the call. The usual clarity had returned to his gaze, with no trace of his earlier drunkenness. I averted my gaze, trying hard to suppress the ache in my heart. I knew he wouldn't be coming home with me tonight. Sure enough, as soon as he hung up, I received another text from Jongkasin. "Liang Luori, you've lost. Right now, the ones who matter most in Zicheng's heart are me and our child." A tear traced a path down my cheek. The moment Ji Yuzicheng opened the door and looked my way, I swiftly turned my head away. He got in and tried to gently turn my face toward him. "Honey, what's wrong?" Hearing the concern in his voice sent a fresh pang of heartache through me. I took a deep breath, lowering my gaze to hide the hurt in my eyes, and said casually, "I'm tired. Will you come home with me?" Ji Yuzicheng smiled and ruffled my hair. "Darling, I'd love to go home with you, but something urgent came up at the office. I'll come home early to be with you, okay? Don't be upset." As he spoke, he cupped my face and leaned in to kiss me. I pressed a finger to his lips, my gaze looking past him to Sun Aaron outside the car. "Someone's recording. Cut the PDA and get moving." I shoved Ji Yuzicheng out of the car, locked the doors, and told the driver to step on it. Roughly 2 minutes later, Jongkasin's call came through. "Liang Luori, doesn't it make your skin crawl to kiss Zicheng?" He's kissed every single inch of my body, including, she left the rest unsaid, a sly smile playing on her lips. My hands trembling, I hung up the phone and told the driver to pull over. Leaning against the railing, I was violently sick. 3. There was no sign of Ji Yuzicheng returning home. Even as the clock struck midnight, I checked my phone repeatedly, but no new provocative messages from Jongkasin came through. The only plausible explanation was that the two of them were locked in a passionate embrace, with a bitter smile. I slipped out of bed barefoot and began gathering all the gifts Ji Yuzicheng had ever given me. Staring at these extravagant gifts, I felt a wave of disorientation. I remember, after Ji Yuzicheng and I got together, he would buy me anything I liked, even things I merely glanced at a second time. I used to think that with such devotion, I must have been the happiest person in the world, but now, I scheduled a delivery for those items to be sent to Jongkasin's place a week later. Since his mind was elsewhere, it was only fitting to send these things to the person he loved most. I was in the middle of cutting up the suit I'd given Ji Yuzicheng with a pair of scissors when he came home. He called out to me from the bedroom. I answered, but my hands never stopped what they were doing. Ji Yuzicheng walked into the walk-in closet upon hearing the noise. The lunchbox he was carrying nearly slipped from his hand when he saw what I was doing. "Darling," he hurried over, crouched down, and grasped my wrist. "What are you doing?" I turned my head to look at him. Ji Yuzicheng's face turned pale as he stared at me in disbelief. I smiled faintly and gently pushed his hand away. 3 stray cats showed up in the little garden. I wanted to use this piece of clothing to make a bed for them. Ji Yuzicheng pressed his lips together tightly. After a long pause, he finally said, "But honey, this is the only gift you ever gave me. I don't even get to wear it normally." I lowered my gaze and continued cutting the fabric in my hands. Of course I knew it was the only gift I ever gave him. I did it on purpose. Ji Yuzicheng kept his eyes lowered, watching my movements. After a long pause, he finally spoke. You cut up my gift. I want you to give me a new one." I looked up at him, my eyes smiling, and readily agreed. "All right, as a matter of fact, I do have 2 gifts for you." Ji Yuzicheng's eyes instantly lit up as he gently pulled me into an embrace. "Darling, you really got me a gift. Where is it?" Hearing the excitement in his voice, a chill began to spread through my heart. I didn't push him away. Instead, I looked past him toward the food container not far away. The rich aroma wafted out, and I knew it contained the seafood congee he had brought for me. Because I'm frail, whenever he upset me or felt guilty, he would go halfway across town to buy my favorite seafood congee. So, you can imagine just how happy Jongkasin made him tonight. So much so that he made a special trip to buy it in the middle of the night. I let out a self-deprecating chuckle and said softly, "Just wait, you'll find out in a week." Ji Yuzicheng didn't dwell on the matter and simply led me straight to the restaurant. He opened the seafood kanji and placed it in front of me, his gaze slightly evasive as he said, "You barely ate anything tonight. You must be hungry. Have some supper." I gently stirred it with a spoon, but deliberately knocked over the container when he turned around to pour some water. Ji Yuzicheng turned and saw, then anxiously checked if I was hurt. I watched coldly from the sidelines. The moment Ji Yuzicheng looked up, he met my unusually icy gaze, his fingers curled abruptly, and he stared at me unblinkingly. "It's all right, if you want to eat it, I'll go buy it for you first thing tomorrow morning." I could feel him trembling. In the past, I would never have had the heart to let him tiptoe around me like this, trying so carefully to please me. I had already been holding him and whispering sweet nothings, but now, I just stood up calmly. "Don't bother buying it. My tastes have changed. I don't like seafood kanji anymore, and I don't like you anymore either." For Ji Yuzicheng didn't know what was wrong with me, but he had keenly picked up on the change in me. For the next 2 days, he stayed by my side without leaving for a moment. The Ji family business had only been back on track for a little over half a year. I've seen with my own eyes how incredibly difficult it was for Ji Yuzicheng to get to where he is today. That's why, for many years, he had very little time to spend with me. I fully support him, and I understand his situation. Having said that, of course I wish he could have been there for me more. In the past, if he had cleared his schedule just to be with me, I would have been over the moon, but now, seeing him by my side, I just get a headache. Even though Jong Kasin's special ringtone kept going off on his phone, he didn't answer it, nor did he show any sign of leaving. With my departure date drawing closer and the divorce papers still out of reach, I was left with no choice but to resort to the very tactic I used to despise. I deliberately changed into a cool, revealing silk slip dress and moved in close to Ji Yuzicheng in the most suggestive pose. After taking countless ambiguous photos, I sent them all to Jong Kasin. Sure enough, Ji Yuzicheng's phone rang again the very next second. He tried to hang up, but I pressed my hand over his and answered the call for him. Ji Yuzicheng suddenly looked at me. I looked at him earnestly and said, "You should answer it, it might be urgent." Ji Yuzicheng muted his phone call. He opened his mouth a few times as if wanting to say something. Seeing that my expression remained calm, he finally spoke. "I need to take this call. I'll be right back to be with you." I picked up the chips from the table and started eating, but my ears were still tuned to the commotion over at Ji Yuzicheng's side. I could faintly hear Jong Kasin crying non-stop. While Ji Yuzicheng was patiently trying to soothe her, the call finally ended, and Ji Yuzicheng walked over with a hesitant look on his face. I immediately spoke up considerately. "If you have something to attend to, go ahead, you don't have to stay here with me the whole time." Ji Yuzicheng let out a long sigh, but his grip on the phone remained tight. Please don't be mad at me. The company is just getting on its feet." I cut him off, speaking softly. "I understand. Go ahead, get back to work." Hearing this, Ji Yuzicheng found he had nothing more to say. Just before he left, he said to me with great seriousness, "Give me a week to wrap up some things. After that, I'll take time off and go with you to that mountain town you've always wanted to visit." 5. When I was little, before my parents passed away, they took me to live in Yuncheng for a while. That's why I've always felt a deep, almost nostalgic connection to Yuncheng. After Ji Yuzicheng and I got together, I asked him several times to take a trip to Yuncheng with me, but he always turned me down, saying he was too busy with work. Yet, I clearly saw on Jong Kasin's social media that Ji Yuzicheng had accompanied her on a trip to Yuncheng, and in a week, the baby Jong Kasin is carrying should be 3 months along. Now that the baby is stable, Ji Yuzicheng finally has the mood to go on a trip with me, but the me of now, I no longer need it. I lowered my gaze with a faint smile, and in the end, I nodded. After Ji Yuzicheng left, I received a provocative text message from Jong Kasin, "Liang Luo. What does it matter how hard you try to seduce him? Zicheng still chose me in the end." I offered no comment. While Ji Yuzicheng was still on his way, I broached a deal with Jong Kasin, /Jong Kasin. "Don't you want to be Mrs. Ji Yu? Do me this one favor, and I'll make it happen for you both, /." Jongkasin was more than happy to oblige. Afraid I'd back out, she started bombarding me with their intimate photos the moment Ji Yuzicheng arrived at her place. I saved every single one. At 10 o'clock that night, Ji Yuzicheng came home reeking of alcohol. Just as expected, the moment he got home, he wrapped his arms around me, cooing and apologizing. Seeing those telltale marks all over him, I found myself soothing him with an uncharacteristic patience. Seeing me act this way, Ji Yuzicheng's eyes welled up with tears. Darling, you're so wonderful. If you wanted the stars in the sky, I'd pluck them down for you. My eyes lit up, knowing this was the perfect moment. I took the divorce papers and coaxed him into signing. Ji Yuzicheng put down the pen and reached to pick up the agreement. Darling, what is this? I quickly tucked the agreement away and said with a dismissive laugh, it's a check. Weren't you the one who promised to give me the stars? 6. As the CEO of the GU Corporation, Ji Yuzicheng possessed a certain sober-mindedness befitting his position, even in his drunken state, to trick him into signing. My only play was the emotional card to keep him captivated and off balance, leaving no room for second thoughts. I couldn't help but smile. This trick really worked. I just wonder what Ji Yuzicheng's reaction will be once he sobers up and learns the truth. I placed the divorce papers inside a custom-made pink safe, planning to give it to Ji Yuzicheng as a gift before I left. I then put the safe in the most conspicuous spot to keep Ji Yuzicheng in suspense. After finishing everything, I curled up cross-legged on the floor beside the sofa where Ji Yuzicheng lay sleeping. I began sorting through all the photos and videos Jongkasin had sent me. Ji Yuzicheng must have heard the noise. As he groggily opened his eyes, he reached out a hand toward me and said, Darling, what are you doing? Come here and give me a hug. Watching him act all coquettish with me, I felt a wave of nausea. I couldn't hold it back any longer. Covering my mouth, I rushed to the first-floor bathroom. After throwing up a lot of bitter fluid, my stomach finally settled a bit. Leaning against the bathroom tiles, I was even a little surprised at myself. Have I really become this repulsed by Ji Yuzicheng's touch? Ji Yuzicheng was jolted completely awake by my commotion. He stumbled into the bathroom, anxiously checking to see if I was all right. When he saw I was just a bit pale, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Honey, what's wrong? You haven't been yourself lately. He held me tight, his grip growing tighter and tighter. Overwhelmed by the smell of alcohol and a mix of perfumes on him, I frowned and said, Let go. I can't stand the perfume. Ji Yuzicheng froze abruptly, his gaze shifting and avoiding mine. I forced a smile onto my lips. Why that look? Anyone would think you'd done something to betray me. Ji Yuzicheng grew even more nervous, gripping my shoulders tightly as he explained, Darling, I haven't. I would never do anything to hurt you. His flustered, stumbling manner was truly laughable. I cut him off with a laugh, saying what I didn't mean. I believe you. Now go get some sleep. Lying in bed, Ji Yuzicheng held me tightly, completely unmoved no matter how I struggled. I was afraid his suspicion would ruin my plans, so in the end, I had no choice but to give up resisting. Fighting back the disgust, I stared out at the pitch-black sky, counting silently in my heart to hypnotize myself. The truth is, once I got my hands on the divorce papers, I could have left, but Ji Yuzicheng is now a successful man, and his methods are no longer as weak as they once were. Given the intensity of his possessiveness towards me, if I can't leave successfully in one go, once the alarm is raised, leaving will become utterly impossible. My visa won't be ready for another 2 days, so all I can do for now is wait. After daybreak, Ji Yuzicheng didn't rush to get up. Instead, he lay beside me, quietly waiting for me to wake. The moment I opened my eyes, he leaned in and kissed me. I pushed him away in disgust. I haven't brushed my teeth yet. Gross. He looked at me intently, noticing my little mannerisms and micro-expressions were just like before, and let out a soft chuckle. What are you doing? I took a step back, glaring at him as I asked. Ji Yuzicheng then pulled me into his arms and replied in a low voice, It's wonderful. Darling, you're back to your old self again. I was genuinely happy to receive such affirmation. It meant his wariness towards me would continue to fade. Just 2 more days, and I'll be free. 7. I managed to coax Ji Yuzicheng into going to the office. He didn't want to leave me at first. He wanted to take me out for a drive. I pointed at the pink safe and said mysteriously, You wanted a gift, right? It's in there. If you don't take your work seriously, I'll have its contents destroyed. Hearing this, Ji Yuzicheng's eyes lit up. He fiddled with it for ages but simply couldn't get it open. He pestered me for the combination, but I refused to give it to him. Left with no other choice, he obediently headed to the office. Before leaving, he double-checked with me. Honey, you'll tell me the password in 2 days, right? I nodded. Of course. I hope you'll like it then, Ji Yuzicheng said with great sincerity. As long as it's from me, I'll love it, no matter what it is. I smiled without a word. I suddenly felt a pang of regret that I wouldn't be there to see his reaction when he discovered the truth. It would have been quite a sight. After Ji Yuzicheng left for work, I went to the maternity hospital. I never expected to run into Jongkasin here, who was in for a prenatal checkup. Her belly slightly rounded, she looked me over with a smug expression. Well, if it isn't the first wife, what a coincidence. What brings you here? Having trouble conceiving, hearing her provocative tone. I didn't feel the slightest bit upset. To be fair, what Jongkasin said was true. I do have difficulty conceiving, but it's not infertility. It's because I lost my vitality years ago saving Ji Yuzicheng when he accidentally fell into the water. I was afraid Ji Yuzicheng would feel guilty, so I never told him the truth. So, Ji Yuzicheng has always thought I don't want children simply because I don't like them. I just smiled, ignored her, and walked towards the examination room. Jongkasin followed behind me, watching as I spoke with the doctor and then printed out the termination paperwork. It wasn't until I walked out of the room holding the documents that she snapped out of it, staring at me in shock. Liang Luori, you. I handed her the proof and began to explain. The day I found out Ji Yuzicheng was cheating on me with you was the same day I found out I was pregnant. After a lot of thought, I realized I still couldn't forgive him, even though I was carrying his child. Instead of mocking me as she used to, Jongkasin gave me a strange, searching look. I took back the proof of termination and continued. I'll be leaving tomorrow night. I hope you can keep him with you for these last 2 days. To give me some final peace. Jongkasin didn't speak. After carefully weighing the truth of my words, she finally nodded in agreement. A faint smile touched my lips as I said, thanks. I had already turned to leave when Jongkasin suddenly called out, Liang Luori, don't you hate me? I paused mid-step and couldn't help but let out a laugh. With my back still to her, I replied slowly, I wouldn't say I hate you. If it wasn't you, it would have been someone else. A man who cheats will cheat eventually. So, Jongkasin, you were the first to feel new and exciting to him, but you certainly won't be the last. But you know, Jongkasin, I still have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have realized that nothing in this world is more important than loving yourself. 8. After Jongkasin's persistent, wheedling pleas, Ji Yuzicheng indeed didn't come home. He sent me 2 text messages. I have to work overtime tonight. I'll buy you that new flavor of kanji on my way home. Sweetheart, go to bed early and don't stay up late. I'll be thinking of you the whole time. I deleted those 2 disgusting text messages without a second thought. Not long after, Jongkasin sent me a few pictures. I opened them to take a look. The first one was a photo of 2 people having a candlelit dinner face to face. The second photo shows Ji Yuzicheng accompanying her during a prenatal education session. The third photo captures the 2 of them intimately entangled on the large bed. The fourth photo depicts Ji Yuzicheng holding Jongkasin, washing her. The fifth photo shows Ji Yuzicheng in the bathtub, unable to restrain himself. I calmly reviewed the explicit material over and over, and finally added those photos into the short video I had made. I then sent the finished video to my own email address. I scheduled it to be sent to Ji Yuzicheng and Jongkasin at 7 p.m. tomorrow. I imagine the 2 of them must have been absolutely delighted to receive the little love video I made for them. What I never expected, however, was this. At midnight, Ji Yuzicheng actually came home. At that moment, I was just putting the finishing touches on my work. He rushed towards me, his body chilled from the night air. Before I could even react, Ji Yuzicheng had already pulled me into a tight embrace, his lips close to my ear. He whispered with a tremor in his voice, "Darling, I've had this awful feeling of dread all night, like something is about to vanish from my world forever. I've missed you so much." Ji Yuzicheng's voice was thick with emotion, and his arms held me with an almost desperate strength. His embrace was so tight I could barely breathe, forcing me to push him away with all my strength. Don't overthink it, you must just be exhausted from work. I made an excuse for Ji Yuzicheng, but upon hearing it, he couldn't even bring himself to look me in the eye. He just held my hand tightly and said softly, "Darling, I've sorted everything out at the company. Starting tomorrow, I'll be home to spend time with you properly." I tensed up instantly. "Ji Yuzicheng, did you find something?" Before I could think any further, Ji Yuzicheng spoke again. "Darling, please don't push me away, okay? Darling, promise me you'll never leave me, not for the rest of your life." His eyes, bright and intense, were fixed on me, brimming with hope. I frowned slightly, unsure of how to begin. I remember back then, when we were still in the throes of our passionate romance, Ji Yuzicheng had asked me repeatedly to promise I would never leave him. At the time, my heart ached for him. Seeing him so vulnerable in seeking that promise, to put his mind at ease, I reassured him over and over again, as long as he doesn't betray me, I will stay by his side and love him for the rest of my life. "Honey, what's wrong? Why won't you say anything?" Ji Yuzicheng's eyes welled up with tears. Fixed unblinkingly on mine, I lowered my gaze with a sigh and whispered softly, "Ji Yuzicheng, my words remain the same. As long as you don't betray me, I will love you for a lifetime." Ji Yuzicheng didn't press further. Instead, he pulled me into a tight embrace. He spoke in a muffled, choked voice. "Darling, I swear I'll never do anything to hurt you. I couldn't bear it if you left me. I just couldn't." His voice was low and resolute. I find it laughable. I couldn't tell if he was saying that for my benefit, or just to console himself. 9. The next day, the time for my departure was fast approaching, but Ji Yuzicheng still showed no sign of leaving the house, utterly frustrated. I had no choice but to call Jongkasin. "I need to ask you for another favor." No sooner had I hung up than Ji Yuzicheng's phone started ringing. After the ringtone went off 3 or 4 times, he finally answered the call with clear annoyance. After hanging up the phone, he walked toward me with a grave expression. Hesitantly, he began, I looked up at him and said earnestly, "Go ahead, go take care of it." I wonder if Ji Yuzicheng's subconscious had sensed something was coming. Before he left today, he kept telling me over and over, "Honey, wait for me to come home, I'll be back to keep you company very soon." He kept looking at me with great reluctance. With no other choice, I stood up and saw him to the door. I replied, "Go on, hurry up, I'll be waiting for you at home." Only then did Ji Yuzicheng drive away. I didn't turn away until his car disappeared around the corner. I placed the abortion certificate and divorce papers in the safe. Then texted Ji Yuzicheng the combination. "You can see your gift when you get home." Ji Yuzicheng replied instantly, "Okay, honey, wait for me. I'll be home soon." I didn't reply. Instead, I grabbed my already packed suitcase and headed straight for the airport. Before boarding, the short video I had prepared was successfully sent. Just as I was about to remove the SIM card, Ji Yuzicheng's calls started coming in like crazy. After hanging up, I resolutely pulled out the SIM card and snapped it in two. Then, without a backward glance, he boarded the flight to France. 10. Meanwhile, Ji Yuzicheng sat dazed in the car, watching a short video on his phone. The video documented the entire journey of his relationship with Jongkasin, from their first meeting right up until yesterday. The sender was his beloved wife, Liang Luori. He whipped his head toward Jongkasin and roared, "How dare you contact Yi behind my back? Jongkasin, have you forgotten what I told you when we got together?" Jongkasin cowered fearfully in a corner, her eyes brimming with tears as she pleaded, "Zicheng, please don't be angry. The baby and I can't handle you scaring us like this." Ji Yuzicheng was breathing heavily, panting as he thought about Liang Luori's strange behavior lately. The scene kept replaying in his mind like a movie. A terrible premonition grew stronger, and Ji Yuzicheng violently kicked Jongkasin out of the passenger seat. His gaze was like a knife, wishing he could carve Jongkasin apart. "Jongkasin, if anything happens to Yi, I'll make you pay with your life." With that, he floored the accelerator and sped off towards home. Liang Luori's phone just kept ringing and ringing, unanswered. Ji Yuzicheng's heart ached more and more, and his foot pressed harder on the gas. By the time he pulled into the driveway, the house was already empty. Only then did he realize that the home, once cluttered yet orderly, was now so empty it echoed. Ji Yuzicheng's blood ran cold in an instant. He refused to believe that Liang Luori would leave. With eyes bloodshot, he searched every corner of the house, calling out Liang Luori's name over and over. It wasn't until he saw the pink safe, he opened it with his last shred of hope. Only to find 2 items inside. Ji Yuzicheng instantly collapsed to the floor, tears streaming uncontrollably down his face. Trembling, he picked up the abortion certificate, clutching his aching heart as he wept in muffled sobs. An overwhelming wave of regret crashed over him. Ji Yuzicheng clutched the certificate tightly, his voice hoarse with desperation as he roared, Where are you? Please come back. I know I was wrong. 11. That shove from him caused Jongkasin to miscarry on the spot. From the ambulance, Jongkasin called him. Upon hearing it, Ji Yuzicheng was consumed by a violent hatred. Jongkasin, you deserved it. You should die. If it weren't for her, would never have left. Meanwhile, after landing in France, Liang Luori went straight to stay with her childhood best friend, Tian Tian. Having not seen each other for years, Liang Luori thought their reunion might be a little awkward, but Tian Tian gave her no chance to feel awkward. Chattering away and sharing all sorts of news, finally, she asked, what are your plans now that you're in France? I had actually made my plans a long time ago. I was once a somewhat well-known online singer, but after marrying Ji Yuzicheng, I gave up my career to focus on family life so I could always be by his side. Now that I've seen through the illusions of love, I've started thinking about picking up singing again. With Tian Tian's help, I opened a studio, with a clear mind. My creativity soared. I managed to release 2 songs in just 1 month. Both songs gained some traction, and I started to gather a small group of fans who cheered me on with encouraging comments on the music platforms. Reading those heartwarming comments every day made me feel like life was full of promise. Leaving the past behind and starting fresh was the right decision. Just as I was beginning to enjoy my life, Ji Yuzicheng reappeared in my world. That day, I had just finished working overtime and was walking home with a takeout box of wonton soup, feeling like someone was following me the whole way. I was about to call the police when I was pulled into an embrace with a familiar scent. I froze on the spot. Neither Ji Yuzicheng nor I said a word, but before long, I felt a damp patch on my neck. He was holding me, weeping silently. I tried to push him away in disgust, but Ji Yuzicheng's arms only tightened around me, as if he wanted to crush me into his very bones. I've finally found you, he said, his voice muffled and trembling with the emotion of something precious regained. I furrowed my brow deeply, shoved him away with all my strength, and then slapped him across the face. Ji Yuzicheng, you must have seen what I sent. How dare you have the nerve to show your face in front of me after all this? My slap sent Ji Yuzicheng's head snapping to the side, looking closer. A vivid red handprint was already blooming on his cheek, yet, as if he felt nothing, he kept closing in on me step by step. Please, he pleaded, his voice soft, come home with me. Okay, once we're home, you can hit me or yell at me all you want. I won't lift a finger. His eyes were rimmed with red, and his voice was feather-light, trembling. I matched his pace as I backed away, my jaw clenched tight. Ji Yuzicheng, if you have any shred of humanity left, if you remember even a fraction of the kindness I once showed you, I'm begging you, just let me go. Be good, come home with me. It was as if Ji Yuzicheng couldn't comprehend my words. His gaze remained locked on me, tears streaming down his face, the sorrow in his eyes threatening to overflow. I stopped and looked at him. If I had seen him like this before I discovered his infidelity, my heart would have surely softened. But now, I only feel a deep sense of vindication. I pushed him away and said, enunciating each word clearly, Ji Yuzicheng, you brought this upon yourself. This is all you're doing. You've forgotten everything I ever said to you. Let me remind you one more time. Ji Yuzicheng, if you ever betray me, I will never forgive you. My unusually icy demeanor finally broke through Ji Yuzicheng's defenses. He turned his back, unable to look at me any longer, but his trembling shoulders betrayed him. He was anything but calm. His heart once again in profound turmoil. But what does that have to do with me? He brought it all on himself. 12. I turned and walked away, yet Ji Yuzicheng kept following behind me, like a man possessed. I was trying to ignore him, but he had the nerve to try and follow me inside. I finally lost it and slapped him across the face again. Ji Yuzicheng, how can someone be as shameless as you are? The single biggest regret of my entire life is ever having met you. Ji Yuzicheng suddenly grabbed my hand before I could pull it back, pleading desperately, I was wrong, I know I messed up, please, just give me one more chance to prove myself to you, I'm begging you. I shoved him away with all my strength and pushed him out the front door of my apartment. Ji Yuzicheng, how do you even have the nerve to ask for my forgiveness, when you were cheating on me? Did you ever once stop to think about how much it would hurt me? I hadn't even finished speaking before Ji Yuzicheng hastily cut in. I did think about it. I did. I thought. You thought what? That I'm a barren woman, that as long as you kept it hidden well enough, I'd never discover your secret affair in this lifetime. Is that it? I pressed him with each accusatory question, advancing step by step. Ji Yuzicheng shook his head as he retreated, tears of remorse streaming down his face like a waterfall. Honestly, after all these years together, I've never seen him break down like this. Now that I've given up the title of Mrs. Gu to his new flame, just as he wished, what's he crying about? I averted my gaze from him and said coldly, Ji Yuzicheng, spare me the act, you never really loved me. The only person you've ever loved is yourself. I do love you. You're the only one in this world I love. Ji Yuzicheng was desperate to explain, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at me and said, I admit I'm a monster, I cheated on you, thinking I could get away with it. I thought if I hid it well enough, you'd never find out. I know I was wrong, I really do. I've already taken care of Jongkasin's pregnancy. Come home with me, let's start over, we can have our own child. Looking at his frantic, apologetic expression, I let out a cold, scornful laugh. Ji Yuzicheng, you're something else. Have you always thought I didn't like children? Well, let me tell you now. The reason we never had children wasn't because I didn't want them, it's because I developed a chronic condition from saving you when you were drowning. That's what made it difficult for me to get pregnant. Ji Yuzicheng stared at me, his eyes wide, tears streaming uncontrollably down his face. What did you say? He asked me, utterly disbelieving. I repeated what I had just said once more, and in the end, I simply stated, Ji Yuzicheng, you don't deserve it. The door slammed shut in his face. Ji Yuzicheng stared at my resolute figure, his body swaying unsteadily. 13. For several days in a row, Ji Yuzicheng followed me, never leaving my side. I threatened him that if he didn't get lost, I would send the video of his affair with Jongkasin to all of his business partners. Ji Yuzicheng said nothing, only looking at me with profound sorrow. I sent the video out anyway. The GU group was plunged into a crisis of collapse due to this scandal. Ji Yuzicheng had no choice but to return to China to deal with the matter. Before leaving, he said to me, even if you can't forgive me, I won't give up on you. Once I've sorted out the company's affairs, I'll settle in France and stay by your side forever. I knew there was no point in saying more and began the process of arranging to move to another country. 3 days later, just after I received my visa, I got a call from Jongkasin, Liang Luori, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be left with this permanent infertility. Ji Yuzicheng is mine, even in death, he'll die by my side. Listening to her deranged words, a terrible sense of foreboding washed over me. Not long after, I received another call from a friend back home. She told me that after Ji Yuzicheng returned to the country and sold off his company for a pittance, he was deliberately run off the road by another car on his way to the airport. The other party was moving too fast and died on the spot. Ji Yuzicheng was also severely injured and fell into a coma. It's likely his legs can't be saved. I raised an eyebrow, said understood, and didn't utter another word. My friend has been a witness to my relationship with Ji Yuzicheng from the very beginning up to now. With nothing but a sigh, he hung up the phone. 14. After that day, my life settled back into its usual quiet rhythm. A few days later, while I was working late in the recording studio, my phone kept ringing with calls from back home. Stepping out of the recording booth to take the call, Mrs. Gu's sobs instantly pierced my ears. I know I shouldn't be calling you, but Zicheng, he's fading fast. The doctors say he's given up on living. He's my only son. I'm begging you, please come see him. Hearing the raw, heart-wrenching pain in her voice, I finally felt a pang of sympathy. I've been married to Ji Yuzicheng for many years, though I rarely saw his parents, but every time we met, his parents were always incredibly kind to me. I often felt, through them, the same warmth I knew when my own parents were still alive. Even though Ji Yuzicheng and I are over, seeing the old couple cry their hearts out like that, I just couldn't bear it. Just as I was wrestling with the decision, another sharp cry came from Gu's mother on the other end of the line. It was Gu's father. He couldn't bear to see his son in such a state and had fainted. The sound of Gu's mother sobbing over the phone was heart-wrenching. I let out a sigh and decided to make a trip back home. After Tian found out about this, she didn't really know what to say either. She just tried to comfort me, saying, "Don't put too much pressure on yourself for this trip back home. Just think of it as doing it for the old folks." I nodded and boarded the flight back to my home country. After landing, I went straight to the hospital. When I saw Gu's mother, I was taken aback. The once kindly old man now looked so weathered, as if he had aged 10 years. Gu's mother led me outside the ICU and pleaded with me desperately to put in a good word for her with Ji Yuzicheng. Peering through the glass at Ji Yuzicheng lying in the hospital bed, covered in tubes, I was at a loss for words. With Gu's mother having fainted several times, I had no choice but to stand before the glass and recount old memories to Ji Yuzicheng on his sickbed. Several days passed with no sign of Ji Yuzicheng regaining consciousness, though the doctor noted he no longer seemed as single-mindedly intent on dying as before. Upon hearing this good news, Gu's mother held my hand and wept. A week later, Ji Yuzicheng finally woke up. Once all his vital signs stabilized, he was transferred to a general ward. That day, Gu's mother took me to his hospital room to see him. Yet, Ji Yuzicheng, defying his usual self, turned his head away, with all his strength. He told me to leave, saying he didn't want to see me. No matter how his mother pleaded, he refused to turn back. I bid a detached farewell to the Ji family and boarded the flight to France that same day. After the plane landed, I received a text message from Ji Yuzicheng. "I'm sorry. I know that what I've become is heaven's punishment for me, and I accept it. As I am now, I am no longer worthy of embracing you or following you. I won't bother you anymore. I just hope you won't forget me too soon." I deleted the text messages and threw away the SIM card once again. This time, I can finally start a brand new life. Story 2. When Shen Yangju lost his memory that year, I lied to him and said that I was his girlfriend. Later, we accidentally had a child. He was overjoyed and knelt down on one knee to propose to me. But just when I thought that my secret love finally had a result, he suddenly regained his memory. He blamed me for deceiving him, vowed never to recognize this child, and even had people drag me to have an abortion. On the operating table, I died along with our child. When I opened my eyes again, I was still in that same hospital room. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. On the hospital bed, Shen Yangju still had his eyes tightly closed. The atmosphere in the room was very oppressive. I remember the doctor saying that if he didn't wake up today, there was a high possibility that he would become a vegetable. Mother Shen sobbed softly, and my mother was comforting her beside her. "There's still time. He will definitely wake up." I can't remember the details of when Shen Yangju woke up that year very clearly, but my mother was right. He would definitely wake up. My mother turned around and saw me in a daze, and she waved her hand. "Nuanuan, come and talk to Yangju. Let Aunt Ci take a rest." Hearing this, Mother Shen also looked at me. These were two elders who had doted on me since I was a child. Even after Shen Yangju regained his memory, they always firmly stood by my side. But I wanted to refuse, but I couldn't refuse now. Just as I was about to walk to the bedside, Shen Yangju's eyelids twitched. I never expected that one day he would be able to look at me so calmly. In my previous life, after he regained his memory, the way he looked at me was always full of all kinds of malice. We never had a good meal together or said a word to each other again. He blamed me for being scheming and vowed never to recognize the child in my belly. I knew I was in the wrong, so I accepted all these accusations. But why did he change his mind later? Why did he try to kill our child? That was his own child too. The intense emotions inside me made it impossible for me to stay calm. I averted my eyes and subconsciously stepped back. Mother Shen rushed forward excitedly. Before long, Father Shen and my father also rushed to the hospital. Shen Yangju waking up was great news for them. However, he had lost his memory. After crying, Mother Shen began to introduce everyone to him one by one. "Yangju, They are Uncle Lin and Aunt Bai. Our two families have been friends for generations. This is Nuanuan, Uncle Lin's daughter, and she is also your. When it came to me, I suddenly came to my senses and blurted out, "Sister." This was a subconscious reaction. I hadn't forgotten that in my previous life, Mother Shen had made the final decision. At this moment, she introduced me to Shen Yangju as his girlfriend. But in fact, Shen Yangju already had a girlfriend. However, in Mother Shen's eyes, his girlfriend, Xu Xinlan, was mostly responsible for his car accident this time. It was said that a few days before the car accident, Xu Xinlan had proposed to get engaged. Shen Yangju didn't agree. In a fit of anger, Xu Xinlan broke up with him and was going to run abroad. Shen Yangju had the accident on his way to the airport. Mother Shen didn't like Xu Xinlan much from the beginning, and now her prejudice against her was even deeper. She told me that by taking advantage of Shen Yangju's memory loss, we could cultivate our relationship. Sometimes I thought that even the elders of the two families could see that I liked Shen Yangju. Did he really not know? No, he should have known. It's just that he still regarded my feelings for him as the kind of love a younger sister has for an older brother when we were children. In my previous life, Mother Shen's proposal made my heart race. What made me even more unable to extricate myself was that Shen Yangju accepted it easily. In the end, during the time he was recovering in the hospital, he only wanted me to take care of him personally. We started with a lie, but it ended when he regained his memory. He believed that I was a habitual liar and even thought that the arrival of the child was my premeditated plan. No matter how I explained, he didn't believe that that night was really an accident. I had no credibility left in his eyes. It's just that Shen Yangju, you were cruel to me, and you were also cruel to your own child. I touched my flat belly, and my heart ached as if stabbed by a knife. That child didn't even have a chance to grow up a little bit before he was gone. It was my fault. So if I had a chance to do it all over again, how could I let myself make the same mistake? After being surprised for a moment, Mother Shen followed my words and said, "Yes. You two grew up together since childhood. You are closer than real siblings." The elders talked about the interesting things in the past and were very excited. Only Shen Yangju was silently staring at me with his deep black eyes. The doctor soon came to do a full-body examination for him, and I found an excuse to leave. Even after walking out of the hospital gate, I still felt that all this was like a dream, but I couldn't tell whether being reborn was a dream or the love-hate entanglement with Shen Yangju was a dream. When my head was about to explode from thinking, my phone rang. When I saw the caller ID, I was stunned for a long time before answering the phone. On the phone, Chen Shuhe's voice was very urgent. "Nuanuan, where are you?" Chen Shuhe. "You, why are you calling me at this time?" Chen Shuhe was my deskmate in high school and once pretended to be my boyfriend. After learning that Shen Yangju had a girlfriend, I didn't want to be outdone and told him that I was also in a relationship. Shen Yangju was stunned for a moment at that time, but then he quickly smiled. He rubbed the top of my head not very gently and said, "You're really something, little girl, you've grown up." His tone was so old-fashioned, even though he wasn't much older than me. 2 days later, he asked me to bring my boyfriend out for a meal together. I couldn't think of anyone else at the moment, so I asked Chen Shuhe for help. At the dinner table, Chen Shuhe was very considerate and took good care of me. Shen Yangju even made fun of himself at that time. He knows how to take care of you better than I do. However, after the meal, he asked me again, "I can tell that he likes you, but I can't tell that you like him." After hearing this, my heart felt sour and astringent, because, of course I didn't like Chen Shuhe. I didn't take Shen Yangju's words to heart either. Before long, Chen Shuhe really confessed his love to me. Although I rejected him in the end, he still insisted on continuing to be good friends with me. It was only after Shen Yangju regained his memory and despised me that Chen Shuhe expressed his feelings to me again. But at that time, I was already pregnant and physically and mentally exhausted, and I simply didn't have the energy to care about anything else. And then, I died. Don't ask so many questions. I want to see you. I want to see you right now. Tell me where you are quickly. Pulled back from my memories, my mind froze for a moment, because at this time, Chen Shuhe should have just been rejected by me not long ago and gone on a business trip to another place. After hanging up the phone, an incredible idea filled my mind. Since I can be reborn, could it be that Chen Shuhe can be reborn too? After all, only the later him would call me Nuanuan. Before that, he always called me Lin Xianwan. Soon, my guess was confirmed. Chen Shuhe didn't make me wait for too long. As soon as he got out of the car, he ran towards me and gave me a very tight hug, and the surprised and excited expression on his face could only be understood by me. Sorry, I'm too excited. I had a terrible dream. In the dream, you bled a lot. I was trapped between his hands and slowly lowered my eyes. Both Chen Shuhe and I were reborn, but I didn't want to recall those painful things anymore. It's just a dream. Don't make a big deal out of it, I said with a relaxed smile. Chen Shuhe looked at me steadily for a while and then smiled too. There was a determined light shining in his eyes, which was completely different from his dejected appearance when he was just rejected by me in the previous life. You're right. But this dream made me realize that I can only feel at ease if I accompany you personally. Nuanuan, I'm not in a hurry, so don't be in a hurry to reject me, okay? I was burned by the eagerness in his eyes and subconsciously broke free from him. Just as I didn't know what to say, a familiar and cold voice sounded behind me. No, it was Shen Yangju. He was helped by his assistant and walked over, his eyes never leaving me. This look was very complicated. There was unfamiliarity, dependence, tenderness, and a little bit of grievance. But what was he feeling wronged about? Shen Yangju, you, after being surprised. Chen Shuhe stared at Shen Yangju very warily. However, Shen Yangju didn't look at him. And what he said next really surprised me. Although I've lost my memory for now, it doesn't mean that I won't remember it again. At first, I didn't believe what my mother said, but just now, I believe it. He suddenly became humble. Nuanuan, I'm sorry. I've temporarily forgotten that I like you very much, but before I remember it, please don't consider other people, okay? I didn't know what Shen Yangju was up to. In the tense confrontation between him and Chen Shuhe, I fled in a hurry. I fled back to my single apartment. 2 days later, my mother came to my place to drag me out. After you left that day, Aunt Cai told Yangju that you were the person he liked and that he was chasing you. But what happened? He lost his memory, so you're angry with him. But now that you've been angry for long enough, come with me to the hospital and see him. If the person being slandered wasn't me, I really wanted to applaud Aunt Cai's ability to make up stories. No wonder Shen Yangju suddenly went crazy that day, but if I had a chance to do it all over again, why was he still so easily deceived by a different lie? 2 days were enough for me to sort out my past and present lives. I believe that his original intention wasn't to take my life. It was me who was wishful thinking and like a moth to a flame. He just didn't love me. I couldn't change the relationship between the two families, nor could I change other people, so I could only change myself. I used my work at the art studio to prevaricate my mother. She turned around and looked at me in confusion. When Yangju first had the accident, you were really worried. Why are you making excuses now even for a simple visit? Did you two have a fight? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Mom, he's someone who doesn't remember anything. What would I fight with him about? I really have something to do. Besides, he's okay now, isn't he? Some truths were destined to be known only to myself. Even if my mother knew me very well, she would never have imagined that I was reborn. It was easy to deal with my mother, but it wasn't easy to prevaricate Chen Shuhe. Fortunately, I didn't plan to hide it from him all the time. In my previous life, after Chen Shuhe came back from his business trip, Shen Yangju and I were already together. He didn't comment on my choice and even tried to wake me up and tell me not to deceive myself anymore. But at that time, Shen Yangju, who had lost his memory, had me in his heart and eyes, and I was already immersed in it. With the support of the elders, I was willing to take a gamble. It's just that the ending was not satisfactory. I wasn't surprised that Chen Shuhe would come to the art studio. After a few days, he saw a different plot development from the previous life. Even the slowest person should have an answer in his heart. Nuanuan, are you, meeting his complicated gaze. I poured him a cup of tea and then nodded neither too lightly nor too heavily. He stood up suddenly, his face full of shock, his lips were trembling, and he seemed to have a lot to say, but in the end, he just asked me in a low voice, "Then, do you still love him, Shen Yangju?" I lowered my eyes and smiled bitterly. I love my own life. Only after losing it did I truly understand what was the most important. I couldn't even protect my own life, let alone the child in my belly. Thinking of the child, I still couldn't help asking, did I really die on the operating table later? Did Shen Yangju show up, and my parents? If my parents knew that Shen Yangju sent people to drag me to have an abortion, which led to my death, how heartbroken they would be. Perhaps after he regained his memory, I shouldn't have tried to fight for it. I was too willful. I closed my eyes tightly and didn't notice the sudden paleness of Chen Shuhe's face. I don't know either. I felt inexplicably flustered that day. When I found you, something had already happened to you. Then, in the blink of an eye, I was back here again. Chen Shuhe stared at me closely, his tone a little excited. Nuanuan, this time, don't get involved with him again. This way, you won't have a child either. And you'll still be you. Sooner or later, he will regain his memory, and his girlfriend will come back. Then, I know, I interrupted him lightly. I didn't want to talk about the past anymore, but the memories suddenly came flooding back like a dam breaking. That day, Shen Yangju's face was already unpleasant, but I was still immersed in the fantasy of the wedding. I excitedly held a stack of wedding magazines and brought them to him. With a wave of his hand, he knocked all the magazines to the ground. He said that I made him feel sick. The next day, he flew to the other side of the ocean and brought Xu Xinlan back. I covered my face with both hands. I really didn't want to recall it anymore. After Chen Shuhe left, I sat there for a long time, until a pot of tea was completely cold. Then, Shen Yangju came. The moment I saw him, I remembered that today seemed to be the day he was discharged from the hospital. Accompanied by his assistant, he walked around the art studio as if inspecting it. He didn't make any sound. I gathered my thoughts and was about to ask him why he came, but he suddenly turned around. His tone was sarcastic. Aunt said that you were so busy that you didn't have time to accompany me out of the hospital, but you have the leisure to drink tea and chat with other men. He emphasized the last few words particularly strongly. So, he had been outside for a long time. I subconsciously frowned. I didn't say I would go in the first place, but I wanted you to come, me, even though the time we spent together that was obtained through deception wasn't long, it was still deeply engraved in my heart. This was Shen Yangju after losing his memory. In front of me, he didn't have the aura of the president of the Shun Corporation, and he lacked the dignity and pressure of a superior. There was still a bit of the spirit of his youth on his handsome face. He was a proud and arrogant man. Unfortunately, later reality gave me a hard slap in the face. What was false was false. I clenched my fists. Shen Yangju, your mother lied to you. I'm not the person you like. We just knew each other since childhood, and we're not familiar with each other. Shen Yangju suddenly fell silent, staring at me with his dark peach blossom eyes. You're still angry, me, Nuanuan. No one can deceive me. That day at the main entrance, I saw that man put his arm around your shoulder. At that moment, I believed what my mother said, and just now, you were making tea and chatting with him. I was really depressed. We grew up together. How could we not be familiar with each other? If I hadn't experienced the deep pain and paid a heavy price, I really couldn't resist this Shen Yangju. I took out my phone and found the selfie of Xu Xinlan in her WeChat moments. Take a good look. Xu Xinlan, is your girlfriend, the person you like? Shen Yangju glanced casually. I've seen it. I don't have any feelings for her. Not sure. Let me take another look. I've seen it clearly. She's not as good looking as you. Me. This is not good. The after effects of this lie seem to be even more serious. Shen Yangju began to come to my art studio every now and then, and I couldn't drive him away. I gritted my teeth in anger. I sneered at him, saying that he had never been so obedient to Mother Shen before. He explained seriously, I'm not listening to anyone. I'm believing in my own heart. After a pause, he softened his voice. I want to see you. I like looking at you. I never realized before that he was quite eloquent. After all, in my previous life, every day after we were together, I was happy and didn't hide my love for him at all. Most of the time, I was the one who said the sweet words, and he just echoed me. But what was the result? After he regained his memory, he completely denied everything and only remembered that I had deceived him. Thinking of this, I smiled coldly. But I don't want to see you. You don't need to look at me. Just paint your painting and focus on it. However, after giving him the cold shoulder for a few days, he couldn't hold back anymore and asked me why I was so cold to him. I borrowed the words he said when he looked at Xu Xinlan's photo before. Because, I don't have any feelings for you. This sentence was still quite powerful. Shen Yangju didn't come for several days. I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. There are some people you just can't see, otherwise, I don't know what kind of mood I should use to face them. His sincere and innocent eyes now will only make me feel schizophrenic. I remind myself all the time, everything that happened in the previous life was not a nightmare, but real. Lin Yuan, you have to be sober. Unfortunately, the peaceful days didn't last for a few days. Shen Yangju came again. This time, almost as soon as he came in. Chen Shuhe also arrived. Why is he here? The look in Chen Shuhe's eyes as he looked at me was full of disbelief and accusation. I couldn't help but frown. Before, Shen Yangju usually came in the morning, and Chen Shuhe came in the evening. They never met each other at all. But today, I don't know what happened. They just happened to come at the same time. I understood what Chen Shuhe meant. He didn't want me to have any more involvement with Shen Yangju, but I also didn't like his tone. Why can't I be here? At this moment, the hostility in Shen Yangju's eyes was no less than that in Chen Shuhe's. His thin lips were slightly pursed, and his black eyes were deep, making it impossible to see his emotions. Chen Shuhe narrowed his eyes and was equally unwilling to show weakness, because she doesn't like it. This was, directly pointing the finger at me. Shen Yangju looked at me rather hurt, but quickly turned away. If she doesn't like me, does that mean she likes you, then? Two pairs of eyes looked at me at the same time. Very well, I took a deep breath and said coldly, I don't like either of you. When Shen Yangju heard this, he immediately raised his chin proudly. What was he so proud of? I couldn't even look at him. I sat back in the art studio and started painting again, not planning to pay attention to them. However, the more I deliberately tried to ignore them, the more I couldn't. Moreover, both of their voices were quite loud. Shen Yangju, I don't care what you're up to, anyway, don't come to harass Nuanuan again. On what grounds are you saying this to me? According to my investigation, you two have already broken up. An ex should act like an ex. Chen Shuhe's voice sounded very angry. That's a matter between us two, it has nothing to do with you. Shen Yangju casually retorted, then the matter between me and her doesn't require you to butt in either. Do you know how you lost your memory? It was for another woman. Now that you're pestering Nuanuan, what will you do when you regain your memory one day? It's none of your business. I know what I'm doing. Even if I regain my memory one day, I will only recognize Lin Yuan. He said he would only recognize me. My hand trembled, and I ruined a painting. This should be the most ridiculous thing I've heard. Outside, Chen Shuhe laughed out loud. You can't do it. You can't do it. Seriously, don't come to her again. Otherwise, you'll only hurt her. I suddenly stood up from the chair and walked out of the art studio. Chen Shuhe, I was afraid that he would say too much, but Shen Yangju wouldn't let go of this issue. Chen Shuhe's eyes were a little distracted, and he said softly and melancholically, in my dream, you hurt Nuanuan terribly. She bled a lot. The floor was covered with blood. Shen Yangju frowned as he listened, and then he counterattacked without mercy. Same here. I also had a dream, and the culprit was you, me. What kind of childish argument was this? Even if someone had an elementary school education, they wouldn't be like this. Just as I was about to open my mouth and tell them to get out, Chen Shuhe suddenly roared, you're talking nonsense. He pounced on Shen Yangju and threw a punch directly. The cheekbone where Shen Yangju was hit immediately turned red, and he quickly counterattacked with a punch. The two of them quickly started fighting. I was stunned. Only when my throat was almost hoarse from shouting did they stop. Shen Yangju was still sitting on the ground, looking rather embarrassed. He said pitifully, I sprained my ankle and can't get up. Hehe, did he expect me to help him up? That was impossible. Call your assistant. After giving him an angry look, I said to Chen Shuhe, you can leave first. Chen Shuhe also had some scratches on his face, but they didn't look serious. Mainly, I was tired of both of them and didn't want to see them anymore. Before Chen Shuhe left, his eyes were extremely hurt. Nuanuan, you still favor him. I wanted to say that I didn't, but he kept muttering those words. You still can't forget him. You clearly know the ending but still take his side. You'll regret it. You'll regret it. I simply shut up and went back to the art studio. I didn't want to say a word. I don't know when Shen Yangju left. I also don't know what he told his family when he went back. Anyway, that night, I was called back by my mother. The meal was peaceful, but after the meal, she pulled me into the room. She took out an album. It was an album that I had personally organized in the past. The special album of Shen Yangju and me. Did I misunderstand? Xianwan, you don't like Yangju anymore. This was a question I had to face sooner or later. Fortunately, I had already thought of a way to deal with it. Yeah, I don't like him anymore. My mother was still a bit surprised to hear me admit it with her own ears. Can you tell me why? Yangju is very serious about you now. He even came to see your father and me. Mom, I interrupted her gently and said indifferently. The reason is very simple. I've thought it through. He should like Xu Xinlan very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed to the airport to chase after her. Although he has lost his memory now, it's said that people who lose their memory change their personalities greatly. We can't believe him. I think you should persuade Aunt Cai. Sooner or later, he will regain his memory. It's better for Aunt Cai to think it through and accept Miss Xu. My mother was easily persuaded by me. And she also thought that Shen Yangju, who had lost his memory, was unreliable. That's right. He's not only unreliable now, but also very troublesome. Shen Yangju used the excuse of being beaten up in my place and came to the art studio to make tea every now and then. Sometimes I wondered, why did he become so shameless after losing his memory? I can't even scold him away. Also, why wasn't he reborn? If he came back to life and remembered everything in the past, I wouldn't have to suffer like this. That's right, if he regained his memory, he wouldn't bother me anymore. After thinking it over and over again, I decided to contact Xu Xinlan, but unexpectedly, Chen Shuhe contacted her before me. Nuanuan, I don't want you to be hurt by Shen Yangju again. I know you're in a dilemma. After all, he's not the same person as he will be in the future. I also know that woman Xu Xinlan bullied you. After Shen Yangju regains his memory, I will make them pay for what they've done. Looking at Chen Shuhe, who was a bit crazy, I calmly shook my head. Shuhe, I'm very grateful to you, both in the previous life and in this life. My blessings for you are still the same, and what I want to say is still the same. You don't need to waste your time on me anymore. Having a second chance, I've thought it through clearly. I'm not here to take revenge on anyone. There's a cause and effect. The cause is myself. So, you don't have to worry that I will make the same mistake again. I won't. I refused Chen Shuhe's participation, which was also a way to say goodbye to my past self. When Xu Xinlan learned that Shen Yangju had lost his memory, she burst into tears on the phone. I knew it. I knew he didn't mean not to come to me on purpose. She also thanked me. Until I told her that Shen Yangju now mistakenly thought that the person he liked was me, Xu Xinlan's face changed greatly, and she questioned me about what I had done to Shen Yangju. But in fact, this time, I didn't do anything. Because I became the person Shen Yangju liked now, Xu Xinlan still held a grudge against me. To be honest, I really wanted to stay as far away from them as possible. In my previous life, after Shen Yangju brought Xu Xinlan back, they officially announced their reunion in a high-profile way in the circle. They were the right people for each other, and I was the despicable and shameless person who took advantage of others' misfortunes. Xu Xinlan brought her sisters to the art studio more than once to mock and ridicule me. The last time, Mother Shen helped me out of the situation. Since Mother Shen didn't approve of her, she said publicly, that was because she took into account the child in my belly. In short, what she said was very unpleasant, and I, who wasn't loved, didn't have the right to refute at all. Xu Xinlan undoubtedly had some tricks, but I didn't expect that this time, her return had no effect on Shen Yangju at all. In my limited knowledge, the love of a lover had the opportunity to awaken past memories. That's how it's shown on TV. However, in Shen Yangju's case, something unexpected happened. He was completely indifferent to Xu Xinlan's appearance, let alone giving her any chance to get close to him. It was said that Shen Yangju directly drove her out of the Shen Corporation building, leaving Xu Xinlan crying and shouting in anger in front of the building. This was men, whether they love or don't love. They are so decisive. Xu Xinlan couldn't do anything about it and had to reluctantly ask me for help. I didn't hesitate at all. After sending her the location of the art studio, I closed the door. When I went out again, I heard Shen Yangju's cold and heartless voice. 5 million yuan or calling the police. Which one do you choose? Yangju, Miss Xu, I've lost my memory, not my mind. I can't find any traces of loving you in my past life. Before I could figure out the meaning of this sentence, Xu Xinlan made a decision. I choose 5 million yuan. Xu Xinlan left, and Shen Yangju didn't even give her a glance. Didn't love Xu Xinlan. How could that be possible? The man's deep eyes suddenly looked at me, filled with emotions I couldn't understand. When I came to my senses, he was already standing in front of me. Do you really not want to see me that much? Did he know? Probably intimidated by the strong emotions in his voice, I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The silence continued. And Shen Yangju just blocked my way. I clenched my fists tightly. When I opened my mouth, my throat was a bit hoarse. Excuse me, I want to go out. Shen Yangju still didn't move. I had to turn around and go back to the art studio. Behind me, the man's hoarse voice was filled with unwillingness and confusion. Nuanuan, what exactly happened that made us become like this? Are you hiding something from me? And you and that Chen Shuhe, what does he know? Shen Yangju left again. I thought he wouldn't come again this time, because I asked him. I also have 5 million yuan. Do you choose it? He didn't want to see Xu Xinlan. I didn't want to see him either. My life returned to peace again, without discussing it with my family. I applied to a foreign school. Before the result came out, the art studio continued to operate in a semi-public welfare form. More and more children from the surrounding residential areas came to learn painting. Looking at their innocent and lovely faces and listening to their clear and happy voices, I became busier and busier. Shen Yangju, Xu Xinlan, their contact information lay quietly in my friend list. I didn't know how long I had to scroll down to find the chat window. And under my deliberate ignoring, Chen Shuhe's messages became fewer and fewer. I knew, saying goodbye to the past also meant saying goodbye to the people in the past. I liked this kind of business. If it weren't for the birthday red packet my mother sent me in advance, I would have almost forgotten this day. The night when Shen Yangju and I accidentally got pregnant. At this time in my previous life, the new bar opened by Chen Shuhe started to operate. And he wanted to hold a simple birthday party for me. I refused because at that time, Shen Yangju was my boyfriend. However, to celebrate the opening of his bar, I suggested having my birthday in the bar, just to add some popularity to the bar. I thought you were still angry, me, Nuanuan. No one can deceive me. That day at the main gate, I saw that man put his arm around your shoulder. At that moment, I believed what my mother said, and just now, you were making tea and chatting with him. It made me feel really annoyed. We've known each other since we were kids. How could we not be familiar? If I hadn't experienced the intense pain and paid such a heavy price, I really wouldn't have been able to resist this Shen Yangju. I took out my phone and found the selfie of Xu Xinlan in her moments. Take a good look. Xu Xinlan, is your girlfriend, the person you like? Shen Yangju glanced casually and said, I've seen it. I don't have any feelings for her, not sure. Let me take another look. I've seen clearly. She's not as pretty as you. Me, this is not good. The after effects of this lie seem to be even more serious. Shen Yangju started coming to my art studio every now and then, and I couldn't drive him away no matter what. I gritted my teeth in anger. I sneered at him, saying that he had never been so obedient to Aunt Shun before. He seriously defended himself. I'm not listening to anyone. I'm just following my own heart. After a pause, he softened his voice. I want to see you. I like looking at you. I never realized before that he could be so eloquent. After all, in my previous life, every day after we were together, I was full of joy and didn't hide my love for him at all. Most of the time, I was the one saying the sweet words, and he would just go along with them. But what was the result? After he regained his memory, he completely denied everything and only remembered that I had deceived him. Thinking of this, I gave a cold laugh. But I don't want to see you. You don't need to look at me. Just focus on your painting. After losing his memory, he became even more thick-skinned. However, after giving him the cold shoulder for a few days, he couldn't hold back anymore and asked me why I was being so cold to him. I borrowed the words he said when he looked at Xu Xinlan's photo before, because I have no feelings for you. This sentence was quite powerful. Shen Yangju didn't come for several days. I couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. There are some people you just can't see, otherwise, I don't know what kind of mood I should use to face them. His sincere and innocent eyes now would only make me feel torn. I keep reminding myself all the time, everything that happened in the previous life was not a nightmare, but a reality. Lin Yuan, you have to be clear-headed. Unfortunately, the peaceful days didn't last long. Shen Yangju came again. This time, almost as soon as he came in. Chen Shuhe also arrived. Why is he here? The look in Chen Shuhe's eyes when he looked at me was full of disbelief and accusation. I couldn't help but frown. Before, Shen Yangju usually came in the morning, and Chen Shuhe came in the evening. They never ran into each other. But today, I don't know what happened. They happened to come at the same time. I understood what Chen Shuhe meant. He didn't want me to have any more connections with Shen Yangju, but I also didn't like his tone. Why can't I be here? At this moment, the hostility in Shen Yangju's eyes was no less than that in Chen Shuhe's. His thin lips were slightly pursed, and his dark eyes were so deep that it was hard to see his emotions. Chen Shuhe squinted his eyes and was equally unwilling to show weakness, because she doesn't like it. This was directly pointing the finger at me. Shen Yangju looked at me with a rather hurt expression, but quickly turned away. If she doesn't like me, does that mean she likes you? Then, two pairs of eyes stared at me simultaneously. Very well. I took a deep breath and said coldly, I don't like either of you. When Shen Yangju heard this, he immediately raised his chin triumphantly. What was he so proud of? I couldn't even bear to look at him. I sat back in the art studio and started painting again, not intending to pay attention to them. However, the more I deliberately tried to ignore them, the more I couldn't. Moreover, both of them were speaking quite loudly. Shen Yangju, I don't care what you're up to. Anyway, don't come to harass Nuanuan anymore. On what grounds are you saying this to me? According to my investigation, you two have already broken up. An ex should act like an ex. Chen Shuhe's voice sounded very angry. That's a matter between us. It has nothing to do with you. Shen Yangju casually retorted. Then the matter between me and her doesn't need you to interfere either. Do you know how you lost your memory? It was because of another woman. Now that you're pestering Nuanuan, what will you do when you regain your memory one day? It's none of your business. I know what I'm doing. Even if I regain my memory one day, I will only recognize Lin Nuan. He said he would only recognize me. My hand trembled, and I ruined a painting. This must be the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Outside, Chen Shuhe laughed loudly. You can't do it. You can't do it. Seriously. Don't come to her again, otherwise, you'll only hurt her. I suddenly stood up from the chair and walked out of the art studio. Chen Shuhe. I was afraid he would say too much, but Shen Yangju wouldn't let go of this issue. Chen Shuhe's eyes were a bit unfocused, and he said softly, in my dream, you hurt Nuanuan terribly. She bled a lot, and the floor was covered with blood. Shen Yangju frowned as he listened, and then he counterattacked without mercy. Same here, I also had a dream. And the culprit was you. Me. What kind of childish argument was this? Even someone with an elementary school education wouldn't be like this. Just as I was about to open my mouth and tell them to get out, Chen Shuhe suddenly roared, you're talking nonsense. He pounced on Shen Yangju and threw a punch directly. The cheekbone where Shen Yangju was hit immediately turned red, and he quickly counterattacked with a punch. The two of them quickly got into a fight. I was stunned. Only when my throat was almost hoarse from shouting did they stop. Shen Yangju was still sitting on the ground. Looking rather embarrassed, he said pitifully, I sprained my ankle and can't get up. Hihi. Did he expect me to help him up? That was impossible. Call your assistant. After giving him an angry look, I said to Chen Shuhe, you can leave first. Chen Shuhe also had some scratches on his face, but they didn't look serious. Mainly, I was really tired of both of them and didn't want to see them anymore. Before Chen Shuhe left, his eyes were filled with deep hurt. Nuanuan, you still take his side. I wanted to say that I didn't, but he kept muttering those words. You still can't forget him. You clearly know the ending but still favor him. You'll regret it. You'll regret it. I simply shut up and went back to the art studio. I didn't want to say a word. I don't know when Shen Yangju left. I also don't know what he told his family when he got back. Anyway, that night, I was called back by my mother. The meal was uneventful, but after the meal, she pulled me into the room. She took out an album. It was an album that I had personally organized in the past, a special album of Shen Yangju and me. Did I misunderstand, Xianwan? You don't like Yangju anymore. This was a question I had to face sooner or later. Fortunately, I had already thought of a way to deal with it. Yeah, I don't like him anymore. My mother was still a bit surprised to hear me admit it with her own ears. Can you tell me why? Yangju is really serious about you now. He even came to see your father and me. Mom, I interrupted her gently and said indifferently, the reason is very simple, I've thought it through, he should like Xu Xinlan very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have rushed to the airport to chase after her. Although he has lost his memory now, it's said that people who lose their memory change a lot. We can't trust him. I think you should persuade Aunt Cai. Sooner or later, he will regain his memory. It's better for Aunt Cai to accept Miss Xu. My mother was easily convinced by me, and she also thought that Shen Yangju, who had lost his memory, was unreliable. That's right, he's not only unreliable now, but also very troublesome. Shen Yangju used the excuse of being beaten up in my place and came to the art studio to make tea every now and then. Sometimes I wondered, why did he become so shameless after losing his memory? I couldn't even scold him away. Also, why wasn't he reborn? If he had been reborn and remembered everything in the past, I wouldn't have to suffer like this. That's right, if he regained his memory, he wouldn't bother me anymore. After thinking it over and over again, I decided to contact Xu Xinlan, but unexpectedly, Chen Shuhe contacted her before me. Nuanuan, I don't want you to be hurt by Shen Yangju again. I know you're in a difficult situation. After all, he's not the same as he was before. I also know that woman Xu Xinlan bullied you. After Shen Yangju regains his memory, I will make them pay for what they've done. Looking at Chen Shuhe, who seemed a bit crazy, I calmly shook my head. Shuhe, I'm really grateful to you. Both in the previous life and in this life, my blessings for you remain the same, and what I want to say is also the same. You don't need to waste your time on me anymore. Having a second chance, I've thought it through clearly. I'm not here to take revenge on anyone. There's a cause and effect. The cause was me, so you don't have to worry that I will make the same mistake again. I won't. I refused Chen Shuhe's involvement, which was also a way to say goodbye to my past self. When Xu Xinlan learned that Shen Yangju had lost his memory, she burst into tears on the phone. I knew it. I knew he didn't mean not to come to me on purpose. She also thanked me, until I told her that Shen Yangju now mistakenly thought that the person he liked was me. Xu Xinlan's face changed drastically, and she questioned me about what I had done to Shen Yangju. But in fact, this time, I didn't do anything, because I became the person Shen Yangju liked now. Xu Xinlan still held a grudge against me. To be honest, I really wanted to stay as far away from them as possible. In my previous life, after Shen Yangju brought Xu Xinlan back, they publicly announced their reunion in a high-profile way in the circle. They were the right people for each other, and I was the despicable and shameless person who took advantage of the situation. Xu Xinlan brought her sisters to the art studio more than once to mock and ridicule me. The last time, Aunt Shen helped me out of the situation. Since Aunt Shen didn't approve of her, she said publicly, that was because of the child in my belly. In short, what she said was really unpleasant, and I, who wasn't loved, didn't have the right to refute it all. Xu Xinlan undoubtedly had some tricks up her sleeve, but I didn't expect that this time, her return had no effect on Shen Yangju at all. In my limited knowledge, the love of a lover could potentially awaken past memories. That's how it's shown on TV. However, in Shen Yangju's case, something unexpected happened. He was completely indifferent to Xu Xinlan's appearance, let alone giving her any chance to get close to him. It was said that Shen Yangju directly drove her out of the Shen Corporation building, leaving Xu Xinlan crying and shouting in anger in front of the building. This was men, whether they love or don't love, they are so decisive. Xu Xinlan couldn't do anything about it and had to reluctantly ask me for help. I didn't hesitate at all. After sending her the location of the art studio, I closed the door. When I went out again, I heard Shen Yangju's cold and heartless voice. 5 million yuan or calling the police. Which one do you choose? Yangju, Miss Xu, I've lost my memory, not my mind. I can't find any traces of loving you in my past life. Before I could figure out the meaning of this sentence, Xu Xinlan made a decision. I choose 5 million yuan. Xu Xinlan left. And Shen Yangju didn't even give her a sideways glance. Didn't love Xu Xinlan. How could that be possible? The man's deep eyes suddenly looked at me, filled with emotions I couldn't understand. When I came to my senses, he was already standing in front of me. Do you really not want to see me that much? Did he know? Probably intimidated by the strong emotions in his voice, I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The silence continued, and Shen Yangju just blocked my way. I clenched my fists tightly. When I opened my mouth, my throat was a bit hoarse. Excuse me, I want to go out. Shen Yangju still didn't move. I had to turn around and go back to the art studio. Behind me, the man's hoarse voice was filled with unwillingness and confusion. Nuanuan, what exactly happened that made us become like this? Are you hiding something from me? And you and that Chen Shuhe, what does he know? Shen Yangju left again. I thought he wouldn't come again this time, because I asked him. I also have 5 million yuan. Do you choose it? He didn't want to see Xu Xinlan. I didn't want to see him either. My life returned to peace again. Without discussing it with my family, I applied to a foreign school. Before the result came out, the art studio continued to operate in a semi-public welfare form. More and more children from the surrounding residential areas came to learn painting. Looking at their innocent and lovely faces and listening to their clear and happy voices, I became busier and busier. Shen Yangju, Xu Xinlan. Their contact information lay quietly in my friend list. I didn't know how long I had to scroll down to find the chat window, and under my deliberate ignoring, Chen Shuhe's messages became fewer and fewer. I knew, saying goodbye to the past also meant saying goodbye to the people in the past. I liked this kind of business. If it weren't for the birthday red packet my mother sent me in advance, I would have almost forgotten this day, the night when Shen Yangju and I accidentally got pregnant. At this time in my previous life, the new bar opened by Chen Shuhe started operating, and he wanted to hold a simple birthday party for me. I refused because at that time, Shen Yangju was my boyfriend. However, to celebrate the opening of his bar, I suggested having my birthday in the bar, just to add some popularity to the bar, but unexpectedly, something went wrong on the first night. Shen Yangju drank some contaminated liquor. It was a spatial night. This time, Chen Shuhe didn't open a bar, so the same accident would definitely not happen again. Let this day be just like every other day, so ordinary that it couldn't be more ordinary. But in the evening, when I was about to close up, Chen Shuhe came with flowers, liquor, and a cake. What are you standing there for? Aren't you going to help? I'm carrying so many things. I instinctively reached out my hand, but Chen Shuhe avoided it. Just kidding. How could I let the birthday girl do the work today? I felt a bit played. But his unrestrained smile and easygoing tone made me vaguely think of the relaxed and carefree days when we were studying. Coupled with his next words, "Long time no see," it made me feel even more guilty. During this period, I deliberately distanced myself from him. At first, he repeatedly reminded me to remember the lessons of the past, and later, it turned into simple daily greetings. He said he was afraid I would be annoyed by him, so he should type less, even if he sent a long message. I didn't like reading it. Chen Shuhe, why do you look like you're about to cry? Have you been bullied? I quickly shook my head, leaned against the wall, and watched him busying around, then I slowly exhaled. Thank you. Chen Shuhe paused in his actions. After tidying everything up without saying a word, he handed me a glass of wine. Want a drink? Before I could respond, he retracted his hand. This time, he gave me a glass of juice. Chen Shuhe smiled and said, "Girls shouldn't drink alcohol, it's better to drink this." I raised my eyebrow, didn't take it, and instead reached for the glass of wine. "No, I'll drink this today." His eyes lit up instantly, and he smiled as he clinked glasses with me. "Then I'll finish this. You can drink as you like. Here's to the new beginning." Come to think of it, this was the first time we had a meal together since we were reborn. Of course, this glass of wine was also the first one I'd had in such a long time. Maybe because I hadn't drunk for so long. After finishing one glass, I started to feel a bit tipsy. We hadn't finished chatting about the embarrassing things that happened when we were students. I thanked him for not bringing up those unpleasant matters today. "Nuanuan, what's wrong with you?" I could barely hold up my head with one hand. I twitched the corners of my mouth and said, "It's okay. I haven't drunk for a long time, and it's going to my head a bit." Chen Shuhe asked with concern, "Your face is red. Do you want me to help you go and rest?" "No need, I can't drink anymore. I'll just have some water, then I'll go and get you some water." He quickly brought a glass of water over, and I reached out my hand. When I took the glass, I accidentally touched his hand. It was cold and felt really comfortable. "Nuanuan, a hand was placed on my face, and it had the same cold feeling as before. I couldn't help but let out a sigh of comfort. But the next second, I realized that it was Chen Shuhe's hand. Shuhe, you. Chen Shuhe's face kept getting closer in front of my eyes. In my blurry vision, his expression was so calm and unfamiliar. But his eyes were extremely bright. He was clearly saying words of concern to me, yet his eyes didn't change at all. Your face is really hot. Does this feel better? Chen Shuhe, please move away for now. I slapped his hand away with some effort and tried to find my phone, but I couldn't. There was anger in Chen Shuhe's voice. Why do you always ask me to go away? Nuanuan, why is it always me who has to leave? That's not what I mean. I've drunk too much. I want my mom to come and pick me up. You're looking for your phone, right? Chen Shuhe asked me. Then, to my shock, I saw him take out my phone from his pocket. He said, I've already turned it off for you, Nuanuan. Tonight, no one will disturb us. Nuanuan, you have to believe that only I love you. And only I won't leave you. I'm here to help you. What was he talking about? What was he doing? Chen Shuhe had gone crazy. There's something in the wine. I staggered to my feet. But I had no strength at all and immediately sat back down. Chen Shuhe hugged me from behind, and his face was pressed against the back of my ear, exhaling a hot breath. Don't be afraid, it won't do you any harm afterwards. I was so scared that tears streamed down my face. Chen Shuhe, you can't do this. Don't do this. No matter what I said, his hands kept roaming over my body. I closed my eyes in despair. Suddenly, the restraint on my body disappeared. Shen Yangzhou's furious voice came from behind. Chen Shuhe, you deserve to die. Shen Yangzhou pulled Chen Shuhe out. I held my breath in the art studio and listened to the commotion outside. It was the sound of force hitting the body, one after another, but they didn't have any verbal communication. And I didn't know who was hitting whom. The phone was on the other side of the table. I couldn't reach it. Shen Yangzhou, Shen Yangzhou, Shen Yangzhou. I started calling his name one after another. But I never got a response. My heart dropped straight down at that moment. It felt like a very long time had passed. And finally, Shen Yangzhou's tall and straight figure appeared in my sight. I couldn't help but shed tears. A pair of strong hands picked me up. This embrace was both familiar and strange to me. Shen Yangzhou, it's me. I want to go home. His voice was extremely deep. Okay, in the end, Shen Yangzhou didn't take me home because the effect of the medicine completely kicked in on the way. Can you turn the air conditioner to the lowest setting? I'm so hot. It's already at the lowest. It's impossible. You're lying to me. I'm not lying to you. I felt so uncomfortable that I wanted to cry, and I could only keep calling his name. Urging him, Shen Yangzhou, hurry up, Shen Yangzhou. Can you be quicker? Hurry up even more. I really can't stand it anymore. Shen Yangzhou, please. I don't know what stimulated him, but he directly parked the car in the park we passed by. I was carried from the passenger seat to the back seat and resisted, shrinking inward. During the struggle, my shoe fell off, and he grabbed my foot. Nuanuan, let me help you first. I shook my head violently. No, you can't, you mustn't. I was crying as I spoke, but I couldn't help hugging him. Stop crying, don't touch me. But you can't stand it, and neither can I. My body was so hot that it felt like it was about to melt. This bone-piercing feeling was both strange and unbearable. I knew I shouldn't continue, but I've never had much self-control. When I was a child, even when I coughed until my face turned red, I still secretly ate a piece of marshmallow. Before an exam, I thought about studying hard. But I still played first. I knew it was wrong to deceive him, but I still couldn't resist being with him. My consciousness gradually faded. Grabbing his hair, I sobbed and said, I can't, I know. After going back and forth like this, when I was finally so tired that I was in a daze, a man's suppressed and hoarse voice rang in my ears. He said, Nuanuan, I'm sorry, I didn't protect you, and the child well enough. My head seemed to explode with a bang. Shen Yangzhou was reborn too. And just in time, when I woke up again, I was in Shen Yangzhou's apartment bed, and he was leaning against the windowsill smoking, remembering everything that happened last night. No matter how embarrassing it was, at least there wouldn't be another child. This was already the best outcome. When he noticed that I was awake, Shen Yangzhou extinguished the cigarette butt and walked towards me. Nuanuan, I pulled the quilt up higher, covering most of my face. Please go out first and let me be alone. Based on my understanding of him, he should have listened, but he didn't. It wasn't me, Nuanuan. It was a sentence without any context, but I seemed to understand what he meant. He said it wasn't him, It was Chen Shuhe. The child we got unexpectedly was because of Chen Shuhe's interference. On the night of my birthday in the bar, in fact, he prepared 2 glasses of wine for us, but only Shen Yangju drank it, and the person who cruelly killed the child in my belly was also Chen Shuhe. He believed that I was attached to Shen Yangju because of the child, so he wanted to solve the problem from the root. Shen Yangju said that later. Chen Shuhe explained that his original intention was never to hurt me, he just didn't expect that the private doctor he found was unreliable. Both me and that child lost our lives because of his self-righteousness. My mind was in a mess, but after experiencing last night, I already believed most of what he said. Don't go to the art studio for a while. You can stay here first. I looked up in confusion. Shen Yangju's handsome face was very serious. Chen Shuhe has mania. I learned about what happened later from Shen Yangju's assistant. After all, I didn't want to communicate with Shen Yangju directly, so this middleman could only be his special assistant. I knew that Chen Shuhe had been secretly speculating in stocks. He had been studying it since we were at school. This time around, he remembered those promising stocks from that year. But because he bought and sold at the wrong time, he suffered huge losses. He had no intention of working and borrowed money everywhere, resulting in a huge debt. In the end, his mania turned into bipolar disorder, and he jumped off the rooftop. I'm not sure if Shen Yangju had a hand in it, but even if he did, it was understandable. The words that Chen Shuhe used to insult me that night were still vivid in my mind. He said that I was willing to be cheap and that even after being reborn, I was still willing to lie under Shen Yangju. He didn't know that Shen Yangju was reborn too, and he didn't know what happened between Shen Yangju and me that night. It had only been 3 months since the loss of that life. During this period, my mom accompanied Aunt Shen to the apartment to look for Shen Yangju, but they found me living here. Looking at the way they were pursing their lips and giggling, I didn't want to explain anything. However, 3 months passed, and my application notice came out. Although my parents nagged about what I was going abroad for at my age, they still followed my wishes in their actions. They took the initiative to learn about the local climate, environment, and culture abroad, and they even started planning how many times they would come to see me in a year. I don't know if Shen Yangju said something to his parents, but in any case, Uncle Shen and Aunt Cai no longer mentioned the matter between me and him in front of me. This really made it much easier for me to face them. On the day I boarded the plane, Shen Yangju didn't come. I knew that he understood me. Although some things weren't done by him, it didn't mean that he hadn't caused me any harm. Having a second chance, some things won't happen again, but it doesn't mean that those harms never existed. The plane is about to take off. Please confirm again that your seatbelt is fastened and all electronic devices are turned off. Thank you. Goodbye, Shen Yangju. I wish you a good rest of your life. End of the main text. Shen Yangju's epilogue. At the age of 8, I saw Aunt Bai's photos on my dad's computer. There were so many of them. I asked my dad why there were so many photos of Aunt Bai. Dad made classified photo albums according to people. Look, everyone has their own album, including your mom's, Uncle Lin's, and yours and Nuanuan's. I took a look, and it was indeed the case. But later I realized that all those photos were taken by my dad. At the age of 12, Chi Hao said that he liked Nuanuan and wanted to marry her when he grew up. I beat him up, of course. I got beaten up too. I started to think that I also liked Nuanuan and that I must marry her when I grew up. I took out the photo album and traced Nuanuan's portrait. But suddenly I had a start. I remembered the photos of Aunt Bai stored in my dad's computer. Did he like Aunt Bai? What about my mom, at the age of 16, on Nuanuan's birthday? Everyone said that she and Aunt Bai looked so alike that they could be easily taken as mother and daughter at first glance. I also looked like my dad, and we were clearly father and son at a glance. So, were we all supposed to like that similar face? No, I didn't like it. Through my continuous observation, I was sure that my dad really liked Aunt Bai. He would always peek at Aunt Bai. Occasionally, when he picked up his phone casually, I guessed that he was secretly taking photos of Aunt Bai. But I never got the chance to touch his computer again. After further observation, it seemed that Aunt Bai didn't know about this. So, should I praise my dad or what? This damn family, Brother Yangju. What are you thinking about? Nuanuan's fair face suddenly came into my sight. Her eyes were almost identical to Aunt Bai's. I numbly turned my head away and said indifferently, nothing. I knew that Nuanuan relied on me a lot, but I didn't know if this reliance was love. The elders teased her about what kind of boyfriend she would look for in the future. She said she wanted someone like me, and she added that he should be someone who smiled more than I did, so it wasn't me. I took a deep breath. It didn't matter. I didn't like her in a romantic way originally. To prove myself, I treated her better and better, but I was still able to date other people. Unexpectedly, the little girl also got a boyfriend. That was fine. Suddenly, I found dating boring and broke up with Xu Xinlan. She made a fuss about going abroad, and I let her go. When we got to the airport, she threatened to commit suicide again. As expected, it was boring. I had a car accident, lost my memory, and then I regained my memory. Nuanuan was pregnant with my child. My dad actually looked at me with envy. It was so damn disgusting. It instantly washed away the throbbing and joy that Nuanuan's words "I love you" brought me. My mom also assured Aunt Bai that she would definitely make me marry Nuanuan. I wanted to run away from them. They had joined forces to deceive me. How could I be easily controlled? My mom said that something had happened to Nuanuan. She went to a small clinic to have an abortion alone. And both she and the child were gone. But no, Nuanuan couldn't have gone there on her own initiative. She liked children so much. I didn't even know that there was such a person as Chen Shuhe meddling in our business. I deserved to die. Nuanuan, wait for me. Probably because there was justice in the world. I was reborn. I will never allow such a scumbag as Chen Shuhe to stay by Nuanuan's side anymore. But Nuanuan, she didn't want to come back to me, even though we didn't mention